Hello and welcome to Anderson Community Television. I'm Carol Donahue, your host today of At Your Service. Many of you already know, I'm sure, that here in Anderson Township we are served by the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. And that's our guest today. It's going to be Community Service Resource Officer Matt Rusk. And welcome to our program, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
Now tell me a little bit, how long have you been in this position, this designation?
I've been with the Sheriff's Office since 1994. I've been assigned as the Resource Officer since 2002.
I see. Now, how do you differ from the others? What is it in your job that makes it different?
As a Community Resource Officer, I have several responsibilities, and I handle many issues that the average patrolman wouldn't have time to deal with. So it's.
Are you more like a psychologist? Are you going to kind of soothe everybody?
More like a problem mediator,
yes.
Problem solver.
Yes. So what type of calls do you have? Who calls you with what type of a problem?
Okay, well, mostly I deal with like neighbor issues, and that can be anything from property line disputes, loud noise disputes, problem houses, possible drug houses. Anything under the sun that can arise between neighbors, I try to mediate.
I see. So, in other words, if I see my neighbor's building a fence and I think that fence is on my property line and I say something and we have a little skirmish or a little few words, then we could call you and ask you to come out and suggest the proper way.
Absolutely.
I see. I see. And
I can put people in touch with the right resources to figure out those kind of problems.
If you suspect maybe there's some type of child abuse, then a neighbor could call you and you could check that situation out.
That is correct. I would definitely contact the correct resources like Children's Services, 2-for-1 Kids. I could start a case just to make sure that kids are being taken care of.
Just in case maybe somebody watching might feel that that could be an issue, could the calls be anonymous? I mean, you wouldn't tell the resident so-and-so called and wanted me to check.
Absolutely. Those calls could definitely be anonymous. A lot of people are afraid to get involved, and that was another reason why my position was formed, to avoid those kind of conflicts with other neighbors.
I see. So you spend the majority of the time doing that. And I know we talked prior to us being on the air. I mentioned I read an article where there was somebody in Anderson Township and they really wanted fresh eggs.
Yes.
And to get these fresh eggs, they decided they were going to keep chickens. And they had this coop, and I guess the neighbor on the one side felt like it was attracting other wildlife. And so do you get calls like that?
Yes. You'd be surprised how many people actually have chickens here in Anderson Township.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. But we get complaints, chickens in the morning, what kind of noises they make. But it's not illegal to have chickens. It's just there might be regulations as far as where a chicken coop can go in your backyard.
I would imagine you have a lot of calls about barking dogs.
Yeah, matter of fact, anywhere in the spring and in the fall is when I really receive most of the calls, because people's windows are open and they can hear all the dogs barking, et cetera. And there is a barking dog resolution here in Anderson Township that we enforce when it comes down to it. But before any enforcement, what I try to do is make the person who owns the dog, try to make them aware of the problem, so they're not, surprised if we have to do some enforcement on it.
Is there I don't want to put you on the spot, but are there any regulations that say how many animals you can have in a home?
No, there's not.
Okay.
No regulations.
I mean, you see these horrible stories on TV where somebody's
Yes.
ill and they go in and there's 25 cats and 10 dogs. So we don't have any regulations.
We don't have any regulations. However, there's probably been things that happened in the past where it could be a health issue, where the Board of Health would get involved to do an inspection on somebody if they've had. You have to have a large amount of cats or a large amount of dogs, but that hasn't really happened a whole lot out here in Anderson Township.
I know someone told me recently about a gentleman that was walking on one of the roads here in Anderson late at night, and apparently he had dementia, and an officer was called. Do you get involved also with elder care? Or?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that's one of my responsibilities as well, is assisting the elderly. If we get complaints about possible self-neglect or elder abuse, I'm able to allocate resources to better assist the elderly, such as adult protective services, other senior services like Triad and things like of that nature to help the elderly out. So yes, we do get involved with situations like that, as well as, you know, people with possible mental health issues. That's come up before too, and we put people in contact with the right agencies to try to assist those individuals.
So you are not on call 24/7. You work the normal
Yes,
business
ma'am.
hours.
Yep.
And if someone has a question and they would like to inquire, I believe your email address will be posted.
That is correct. You can also call our office. It's 513-474-5770. That's the main office. That's the best way to get a hold of me, or again, through the email. Those are good ways to get in contact with me.
Well, when did you decide, at what point in your life did you decide, I want to be a policeman?
I wanted to be a police officer from the time I was a young man, up until actually I got hired on with the sheriff's office back in '94. Always wanted to be a police officer. Wanted to serve the community, and to help people.
Prior to becoming the community resource officer, what other type of work did you do?
Prior to becoming a community resource officer, I was assigned as a patrol officer.
So you were pulling us over and writing tickets? And
That's
okay,
right.
I thought you looked familiar.
Yes.
No.
And before that, I was served as a corrections officer downtown.
Downtown.
Yes.
I think a lot of officers start out there.
A lot of
correct?
us have started down in corrections.
Yeah. And so you live in the area, so that.
Yes, I do. I live in Anderson Township.
And I think it's so important too that, you know, that we look after one another here in this, and I think that's what makes Anderson such a great place. And it's important, I think, too, that if you do suspect something, that, you know, a friendly person like yourself will respond and they can check out the problem. How do you spend the majority of your day?
Well, the majority of my day, you know, I answer, like I said, a lot of neighbor complaints. You'd be surprised how many people don't get along with their neighbors and they don't know how to approach their neighbors with an issue. That's the benefit of having me in Anderson Township. You know, they call on me. You know, I try to mediate the problem. If it's something that we can discuss and get the issues right on the forefront, more times than not, we can solve the problems. Every once in a while, you come across problems that you can't solve, but you know, my position gives township residents a way of, hey, they can have a resource to call and say, hey, look, I feel like my problem's escalating. And I'm afraid it's going to escalate. Can you give me some guidance here on how to handle it? And that goes along with, you know, as far as animals, cats, barking dogs. You know, I've handled property line disputes. Also, too, I handle a lot of traffic issues, parking complaints. You'd be surprised how many parking complaints that we get on a weekly basis out here in Anderson Township.
Parking as far as blocking somebody's?
As far as, like, you know, someone's just parking their car for days on end in front of their house, or if they're parked in a no parking zone. We also get a lot of complaints about people speeding through certain neighborhoods. So those kind of issues I also deal with on a day-to-day basis.
I know, isn't Corporal Boyman, he's in charge of the Neighborhood Watch program?
Yes, he is.
Now, do you work with him too?
Yep, me and him work hand in hand. He gets a lot. He gets a lot of emails and a lot of information from obviously his Neighborhood Watch programs, and he'll forward information on to me if there's a special problem that someone's dealing with. So I will be able to assist him in that, and we work hand in hand. Also, too, I assist Anderson Township Zoning Department with a lot of issues that pop up along those lines. Is, you know, if they've got some issues that they might be trying to handle, and if there's a way that I can intervene and to make that go a little more smoothly, well, then that's how I do that.
Well, tell us, what type of a zoning issue would that be?
Well, just like if they have a problem house and they need me to make contact because they haven't been able to establish contact with the homeowner to try to rectify some problems. It's really easy. Sometimes it's just as simple as knocking on somebody's door and saying, I don't know if you know about this, but the township's been trying to get a hold of you. You know, so I try to establish some contact between the resident and the township.
I see. Do you recommend, if somebody is going to be out of town, like I know so many especially senior citizens, go away for the winter or part of the winter. And there can be papers, like a neighbor is supposed to get the paper in and they forget, or the circulars that are there,
Right.
that they call and tell someone at the sheriff's office that I'm going to be gone. Could you?
Yeah, we have a program, and it's throughout Hamilton County. We do vacation checks.
I see.
So, and if somebody wants to put their house on vacation check, all they have to do is call our district, and that's 513-474-5770, and they can request to have their house set up on a vacation check, which means our officers will check their home on a daily basis, just to make sure there's no broken windows, make sure everything's secure. And that's part of the services we provide out here in Anderson Township.
How about something a little less maybe important, like say shoveling their driveway? If some neighbor, if there's a sidewalk in front and they shovel it and they're supposed to and they don't, do you get calls about that?
No, we have
Oh,
not
that's
received
good.
any calls for that yet.
Well, that's really a good thing. I see. And do you get calls? I know in some I guess in most subdivisions, you're not supposed to park on the side of the street where the fire hydrant is.
That's correct.
And I know sometimes those streets are a little narrow and people are parking on both sides. Do you get those calls?
Yep. Yeah, that's part of the parking issues that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
We do get a lot of complaints about that. And like I said, we still get complaints about people speeding through neighborhoods and issues and running stop signs. So those are, we get out there and enforce those as well.
What do you call those machines that document your speed as you're going through neighborhoods?
Those are speed signs. That's part of my responsibility as well. I usually take care of all the speed signs in Anderson Township. And so if we get a request, and right now we've only got one speed trailer, but we do it on a request basis. So someone could actually request one of those and we'll put it out there for them.
Say if you're driving through your neighborhood and you see a house and the mail, there's so much mail in the mailbox, it's starting to fall out. Can someone call you and can you check into that property?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we've received those kind of complaints. And usually it's either the mailman or a neighbor calling and say, hey, you know what, they're not checking their mail. I think something might be wrong. So we do check on the well-being. So in other words, we'll show up at somebody's house and knock on the door and see what's going on. Sometimes we find out that they're either in a hospital or they're on vacation. So yes, we do check on that.
So I would think here in Anderson, the kind of calls would vary according to the season. Do you get more calls maybe about teenagers or loitering or whatever in the summertime, or
Yeah, usually,
parties or bonfires?
Yeah, usually in the summertime you're going to have more noise. You're going to have more party complaints, obviously, than you would in the winter months. Same with barking dogs. Like I said, in the spring and fall is when most of the complaints come in because people are enjoying their open windows and their back decks and patios. So that's when we get a lot of calls about complaints and parties and loud music.
I know we're kind of past that, but the houses turn over and the new kids move in, and I guess that's part of life. And so I take it you really enjoy your job.
Yes, I do. I'm proud to serve Anderson Township, and I have been proud ever since I've been assigned out here. And if anybody has any neighborhood issues or neighbor issues that they'd like to address, feel free to contact me.
How have you seen your job change here in the township as when you first came to now? What are you seeing more of that you didn't then?
That's kind of a hard question to answer. It just seems like things slowly change, as far as my job is concerned. As far as how things changed, I don't know. Some of the neighbor problems and issues I deal with, the nature of it doesn't change. Sometimes I find it's the way I handle things or the way we try to mediate issues that might have changed or might have tweaked over the years.
Do you have classes that you attend to?
I have, but I don't have anything as of late.
I see. Well, I know there's not so many open parcels of property anymore. Most of our land, there's homes. I think there's one new subdivision going on off of Clough. So do you sort of drive through that new subdivision also to make sure
Oh, absolutely.
there's no vandalization
Yep.
going on?
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, I work close with Dave Boyman. He sets up a lot of neighborhood watches, especially with new neighborhoods coming up. So we try to get our information out there best we can as far as letting them know what services we do provide out here in Anderson Township.
I think it's really nice the way you have the manpower so that you can all be specialists in certain areas.
Right.
And I know Dave does a great job with that watch program also, as do you.
Well, thank you.
Is there something we all could do that would make your job easier?
Nope, just be courteous to your neighbors And you know, if if you have dogs, you know, and they're barking, don't be surprised if someone calls and complains.
In my
That
past
happens.
life, I was a real estate agent, and the instruction one time, dog is friendly, and I walked in, the dog bit me. And so you never know how a dog's going to react when,
Right.
and then you never know too when you walk up to someone's house, is there really an invisible fence there, or is that dog just waiting to come over?
Exactly.
So do you see many dog bites?
I've had a few.
Personally?
Not personally.
Oh, okay.
I came close a few times, but no, nothing that's no large number of dog bites, but we have had them.
Well, with the way the economy has been going, we're so pleased that the Sheriff's Department maintains the personnel and continues to do a good job. Now, for those who may not know, you are located on Beachmont Avenue.
That's correct.
Where on Beachmont?
7954 Beachmont Avenue. I also have an office here at the Anderson Center.
I see.
So I work 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 7:30 to 3:30. Contact me anytime.
Okay, we have your email address and then the website,
That is correct.
and the website will be shown also. So if anyone has any questions, they will certainly get in touch with you.
All right.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time from your busy day to come and join us today. And everybody, watch your dogs. Don't fight with your neighbors. Check after the elderly. And let's give this man a little pat on the back and thank him for all he does to keep us all safe. And thank you for watching Anderson Community Television. This is Carol Donahue, your host, saying farewell, and we'll see you next time.